Hello, hello. Welcome to the 5th episode. Shocking but true. Tonight we're going to be talking about my Soul Kitchen series. For those that don't know, I work in like different genres at the same time. So I paint paintings like those with the repurposed materials and the primary colors and what have you, and I sculpt. And that's called the Instruments of Agency series. And anyway, and then I have a figurative art series too, of all things. And I also have another dimension, is more conceptual, and they're all sculptures, and that's these pieces, which I call Soul Kitchen. And so these are like built of repurposed items, discovered things, flea market finds, what have you. And while playing with sculpture and developing it, while doing this series, I finally understood you have to have a profound sense of like volume and weight and scale and materials, and then what all those things convey to actually make sculpture that's substantive. And that was my like aha moment. The whole Homer Simpson doop. It was just like, wow, oh, I get it. And so that was really cool. And so like, as I said, like, this is like a conceptual element too, because like, okay, I've said in all the prior episodes, I repurpose materials and I've been recycling things for like decades. It's part of my work, and I like making things once used and discarded new again and valuable again and have some kind of meaning. And same is true with these things. And so I really got involved with like, I would say, elemental components of what it means to like make a sculpture and stuff. And I really pared it down to essential materials, like outside of water. With these pieces, I'm using stone, hardwoods, and steel. And I'm also like really considering like every component and like what it means, right? So just to start with, as I said, like they're conceptual, right? So that's the whole point of the whole thing. And the point is like switching up the narrative, or I got into the whole thing of repairing wounds, right? And it paralleled like life events and what have you. And I had these like great items around, and because I've always collect old crap of every description. And so I came upon these like great stones, right? And these things are, well, with these two pieces, they're matades, or Native American grinding bowls, made out of these big spherical stones for people that are just listening. And they were cracked and discarded and broken, what have you. And I just fell in love with the shape of them and the form and the weight. I mean, they weigh a freaking ton. And this one has like just a nice carved, handled quality and what have you. And this one is like really faceted, like a diamond, as if they like carved it. These are all like Native American things, right? So almost seems like there was a structure meant to hold it. Anyway, I like making things new again. I'll be showing a lot of photos, but like this is really pierced and cracked and what have you. And there's this Japanese tradition of repairing crockery with gold leaf or gold. And so like if something's broken, they could put it together again. And then it looks really elegant and valuable also, because it has this like gold stripes throughout the vases and what have you. And also then, you know, something broken, I mean, you still have it with you, and it has you know, it's not just thrown out a bunch of, like, they've made it new again. And it also looks cool. So it's a really great tradition. So this is what I'm doing, is kind of riffing on that, like repairing broken wounds. But in my case, I'm using this like lacquer car paint kind of stuff called nitrocellulose because I like a really vivid red, juicy color, or just like the texture. I mean, it has such a great contrast to the matte and gray qualities of what do you call it, the stones and everything. So that is a jumping off point for the whole concept. Like you're repairing wounds, and then upgrading them, identifying the break, but making the piece like interesting again, or worth. It's not a discarded piece of garbage, in other words. And anyway, jumping into that as a point of departure, I wanted to like strip everything down to bare elements. Like I use 3 in these, like stone, wood, and steel. And I also broke it down into components that create a vocabulary for making art, right? So it's like sphere, cube, and linear elements, line, or circle, square, line, right? If you were going to do something 2-dimensional. And with recombining that, I mean, it's just like an amazing vocabulary, because with the heavy hardwoods I use as the bases, let's say, bases, they're supported by the linear element of the steel. So, okay, in other words, the pedestal is part of the piece in my work. It's not this like big white cubey thing we're all supposed to ignore, like this mass formation psychosis. You put a little object on a big white blob. It's like, oh, let's observe the, no, you see the whole thing. You can't pretend that big blocky white cube thing is not there. So anyway, it's all very considered. I think everything in the field of view should be considered and not random like that. And so I've broken down these components, and so the pedestals are made out of these hardwoods, which are, what do you call them? Like black walnut, mahogany. In this case, it's like spalted maple. And I love the weight of it, the scale of it, the shape. Feels really substantive. And then I love the delicacy of the grain and the polished thing and the shiny thing. And I love how the polished glossy effect and the real rigid elements contrast so nice with the rough spherical elements of the stone, right? But then this big blocky, chunky, heavy thing is supported by these steel spindles that determine the height of the whole piece, that represent line, and also like levity in the support of great weight, right? Because they're quite strong, at the same time look delicate. And I find that contrast really exciting. It informs each and every element.